sacred. It's something we can't control always, but it's nice to have. And some people have less control of it than others. And so here I am living a nice, happy, fairly isolated life and dealing with my healing issues. And you get someone who's able to be sadistic to you, female, because you don't remember their niece's name. Or you mispronounce it. Instead of Molly, you say Holly. After just meeting them. And it's like, oh my goodness. So I met some more of their family on the beach near where I live one day, just by coincidence. And I'd met them before, and I carefully said all of their names. Hello, so-and-so, so-and-so, so-and-so. Right? I don't even know what these relationships were, maybe more grandchildren or nieces and nephews. And I went about my way. And the woman never apologized. None of those people gave a fuck about me, and nor she, and will never see me again. But for some reason it became a sadistic problem. I mispronounced one of their niece's names. And you could see, like, she was physically livid about it. Like she had some sort of long-standing hatred of me as a man. That's sexual assault, right? Like, that's when women can't control themselves. They really can't. And you picked a man, like a scientific instrument, who's never going to forget, right? I want to find out why, just like I want to understand cults, human violence to myself and others. I want to know why women can do that. I've had the same thing from children, as young as 3 through 17, 19, who have just become aggressive with me. And they're clearly learning from a young age to be aggressive to men. Sometimes their own brothers studied it a long time. At a young age, we're not, unfortunately, looking at this. Humans aren't looking at this. I think it would be like the next challenge for all of us in our gender maturity. We've gotten around 70 different genders, mixed families, one-parent families. Not many, if any of which are doing as well as people probably hope. Because it's human surviving, which is what we do well. We'll cope and accept anything if we have to. But, that doesn't make it right. It just makes it expedient and probably right for the time in terms of the kind of pain that your brain is dealing with on a mass scale. So, you might say that's the dark side of things. It's a clinical way of heading off a lot of future morbidity for a lot of people, if not just I, but we mature about, again, the nature of evil. Like, everything we do is based on the challenges of the entire environment. As Machiavelli would say, exactly the way it is. And I would say the way it impinges upon us, whether we like it or not, in our neocortex, whether we want to think about it a certain way in our neocortex. That's a humility for us. It's not a condemnation. It shouldn't be a reason to wield things over people. And no, we can't afford to be blasé about that. But it's a provocative realm of human learning from ourselves that every single human is doing throughout time anyway. Right? Figuring out what things mean to them. We need a broad, bountiful, huge, negatively infused, that is a very aware and informative and respectful medical philosophy of what humans are really dealing with. Because if we can't produce that as medically oriented people, we have failed our clients. Do you understand? And we should be ashamed of ourselves. We have enough information, but the problem is that people don't look at their personal existence. Knowledge should be personal. And I have lots of personal experience about what hurts and all the ways that we put it into words and all the ways that human brains deal with it. And you have that experience too. So if we have all this experience, we should have a medical philosophy that can tell us why people suffer. Right? And so that, we don't have to be like, oh, you're cancer because you're angry at your father, schizophrenia because you're afraid of both your parents. Thank you, Louise Hay. Okay, wow, disease has emotional and stress components. Most medical professions would say, yes, okay, there's research that touches on that. Good, right? Do this, do that. But it's not just medical research, it's all human destiny. Our emotionality is one of our most important components. And it's connected to all of our senses, all of our muscles, everything in our body that heals from anything that can happen to it. Do you understand? We are fully invested in our own lives. It's not you know better than your doctor. It's you're the one that has to be you. You're living in the apparatus. You're living in the apparatus of science, the mode of science, the reason for science, the object of science. The fucking, autopsy report on you is going to be based on everything about you. What kind of fucking plants and weeds grow up around your fucking cemetery is going to have to do with you and your life on some very amazing way. So why shouldn't you have access to that knowledge by the sound of your own voice? Stimulated as it may be by mine or any and every agony and voice in the world. Think about it. Shouldn't that be our meditation? Shouldn't that be part of our roundup? The fulfillment of the highest of all science and religion in human existence? In you? In your own imagination? In your own breath? In your own body? For a few minutes a day? Because how can you be useful to anyone unless you can feel the fullness of your abstract and root functions as a living tree of endless existence? Related flesh and blood to the trees and suns and stars of this gorgeous earth, and all of the children thereof, all of the beasts and allies, the teachers, the masters, the brothers, the sisters, the feared enemies, the revered teacher. The dazzling, dazzling ways that your own mind will appear to those who are worthy of it. And neither you nor I are the master of anyone. Right? We are beautiful, scintillating things that you can see in a forest. This is what you have in your mind. This is what we have. Those of us who really live. All of us who come before us. Not the people in the movies and the books and the philosophies and all that shit. The economic system as it operates on a monster or a mo or a soul or a pest or an ubermensch of total human dominance. You. Your body, its value to the most divine and developed species that was ever meant to value you, welcomed like a king into the world, right? Introduced properly to a world that had some requests of you to do this or be that, but never to molest you. And if we're going to have that positive view of society, let's include it in a medical philosophy that honors everything that humans have to say about what they've been going through on this planet. And you know what? It's not always nice. And if you want to get to humankind, you need to do more than watch Schindler's List. You know what I mean? And that's probably the most anti-Semitic thing that I ever want to say, because I don't want to be anti-Semitic, but I like to have a maturity about just what race I'm willing to refer to in order to make a point. But a very provocative way of looking at human suffering, right? You would say, in the cinematic world. And but we all have a voice. We all have a story, right? You don't have to have a Holocaust to have a story. Caught up in human war and greed and everything else, right? Right? Honoring anyone does not mean ignoring yourself. You honor yourself, right? Then if you want to honor the Holocaust, honor it with sincerity. Go to the Wailing Wall. Go speak to some Jews about it. Look into their eyes and ask them how it feels. But I've never heard a Jew stand up and talk about their aggressor and how it feels. I have heard Native women stand up in a crowd of white, middle-class, bottle-fed people and talk about how angry she is at all of us. And that's courage. The red man has so much incredible courage we could all learn from. That's where I live. Now, the Jewish issues, and for Jewish people in their regions of the world where those have happened and where they reside, where they call their sacred lands, respect that. But in these regions, the greatest sorrows have been those of my flesh and blood and those of the red man. And many other people around me who don't have the good fortune of being red and suffer from many of their own kind, called white, in many continuing awful ways that I should be forgiven for being able to feel in my own flesh and blood. Though it is not precisely the suffering of the red people who made all of these lands what they are and made it worth me walking out here at all. because they walked the Rubicon. They made the sacred connection between your God and the so-called earth and so forth. They connected with nature. They made life happen here. They made it possible for us to be here, to breathe the ethers of heaven in this place. Do you understand? They did Roundup. They lived Roundup. I'm just making up a silly song to sing to make me feel better, right? They did it. Do you understand? We live as the recipients of their generosity. Every single thing we could call stewardship, governance, ruling, owning, kingdoms, honesty, greatness, sovereignty, dignity, law. This is what the true people here honored for thousands of years. It hasn't gone away. But as far as the white man is concerned, it might as well have, because we seem to want to live our lives to the exclusion of it, whether you put up a few teepees on the side of the highway or not. And that is not good for us. It's not. We're missing something, you understand? You don't just go fucking see a movie about Native people at the movies and it happens. You don't watch Jim Morrison eating peyote buttons and whooping it up and dancing like a red man and become connected to the red man as though it's just casinos and sorrow or something. Fuck no. Hell, that protects them from you. The way you think about the Native man protects them from you. And it protects you from yourself. You know? And you deserve to be protected as the sacred king that you should have been introduced to the world. Not like the Lion King, full of family murder and mayhem. The Lion King is for white people and the lower classes, but introduced in safety and sanctity, with reverence and not surrounded by violence and threats of violence and rumors of violence every fucking day of your gestation. Your white mothers are like soldiers. The feminine is indeed passive and beautiful and elegant and wise. It can also be stoic and strong as the mighty bear, the mountain lion, the caribou, the elk. The strong is the moving of molten continents into vast new epics of human development. You know, in short and in long and at length and by every measure of heaven and earth, a woman is exactly what she fucking needs to be. Right? And that could be the whole of the law. That's your fucking mother. That's mine. That's her sisters. That's her daughters. And another thing is that white people should be ashamed and white men should be ashamed. And you turn your shame into the burdens you bear, and the burdens you bear speak of your shame. And these are the responsibilities, not of adulthood, of emergence into a rightness of living according to the law of your so-called land. Those who would roam what they rule. And that is like a law, too. Today is the day of Crow. I forget the animal that went with it. Sure. It's the day of the law. Anyway. I'm cold. Shit. Hopefully the sun comes back out again. At least I've been walking fairly steadily. I had a fairly long conversation with those mappers, but that's okay. I got some sun. There's a lot of people out today. I think they're getting their licks in because they don't plan on coming out in November or that. I've sounded pretty good today, right? My thought was like, I actually don't upload the first couple hours of my day. There's videos I just don't upload because I don't care. I'm too tired. I just get what I think is the best, or whatever I think of in the blur of my evening. But today, I think I will upload it. I think it's not bad. I like getting conversations with people because, you know, if they wouldn't, but if anyone ever compiled an encyclopedia of all the videos I've made, most of them have been deleted by YouTube, I'm sure they've kept them in some deep, dark archive underneath the Vatican. It's like, there's some guy with headphones going, shit, this is all mine, masturbating to pictures of his mother, dressed in a black Darth Vader outfit. You are not my father. You're not my father. You're my mother. I'm your father, Luke. And he says, no, that's impossible. Right? And everyone's like, oh, well, it must be true. He's saying, no, it's impossible. Darth Vader is his mother. Nobody ever gets it. It's religion. It's royal mythology for the masses, right? Their homes are never good. Their lives are always difficult, but it makes them into heroes. Become like the Oscar, rigid, without genitalia, and being held by the hands of a star god. Yay! I hope that's not a bear. I hope that's not a bear. Hi-ho, Amerio. I hope that's not a bear. The bear's coming near. The bear's coming near. Hi-ho, Amerio. Yeah. Dibba-dibba-doo-ba-doo. Yeah. Dibba-dibba-doo-ba-doo. Oh, well, it's cloudy now. Oh. Let's go down here and take a pee. Well, I'll see the circle first. I just like to check on it. See if anyone's added, subtracted, or destroyed. Those are the three possibilities when you make a public creation like this. It can't affect my mood. Oh, it looks like it's relatively intact. Someone has subtracted from it, though. They've taken the sticks out. I'm guessing the dogs went for them. That's okay. It's still not bad. Okay, and we'll walk down. I think I see a lot of dog prints here, so I think we have our explanation. Hercule Poirot, it was the dogs that took the sticks. It was the dogs that took the sticks. It was the dogs that took, or who took, the sticks. They took them in their mouth and blessed the wheel with the canine spirit of green and zeal and drool that made a little pool and a fool out of the one who left his sticks there to be picked up by such mangy animals has no respect for the sacred. You fool, they are the sacred. The wolf has spoken. I see leaves like orange peels. Leaves like orange peels. I've decided to sing things for the rest of the day. I've got to go pee. Like Viggo Mortensen is free of his contract with Lord of the Rings. He's like a real king. Do you know that he actually evaded a real knife with his own sword when a stuntman accidentally threw a knife at him? He's like a king. He's like a king. Stories about the king are always very flattering. Stories about the king and the royal family of actors that run the world are always very flattering. But sometimes they're drunk and die and choking on their own vomit. That's also made up as well, so we can meet the comet. It satisfies, do you hear me? Do you hear me? I'm a little star. I'm a little princess. No, not that far. I'm just a little star. I'm a little boy. Say that I am. Young as this land is green, and old as all that browns from worlds unseen. To carry such a fruit from all that lay afoot, and all that touches heaven, just for me, and to lay upon the sand, like my own father's hand, some new paper for me to read. I see the leaves, Father, spread quite abundantly at my foot. Where do all these leaves think they're going when their time has come? And when they bend into their red and yellow colors to look more like the sun, don't tell anybody. The king has wandered forth. His heart, his queen, runs strong and green, and you shall not want for peace in the everlasting language. When language stops and songs begin to breathe, and lips like these, and all that trees hath ever meant so quietly to these. Oh, please don't let me lose what the stones themselves can prove on such a mind as strong as our own. And you can be strong however you like. Your mind is much greater than all that they want you to slave. And you want to slave a little bit, I dare say. For who does not want to work and pay their way? And those who do not, I say, they are the true slaves of their indolence. And the growing apathy and bitterness, which finds its way more often to their self-possessed demons of perpetual inertia, in the zeal with which the financial kingdom of man's industrial destiny bears forth its fruit, and tarmac and cancer and death and war. And the poverty of human hearts that cannot be stricken by such a poverty, it would deprive them of all of the efforts they make to love the world as much as they do today, which is also increased with its zeal, a pace that of the very real demands this world has placed upon our flesh and blood, whether we like it or not, and call it God or life of evolution. You should be lucky to live in a world that can explain it to you when you have time to listen. Which, thankfully, you don't, because if you made sense of everything they're telling you, it wouldn't make any sense, and you'd have to start making a lot more for yourself. Money, maybe, but sense. Did you know you could make sense without making dollars? Think about it. It's like a little kind of witchcraft that banishes the witchcraft of the world, which is a fantastical leaning of thoughts that are put into the particularly gleaming silver shadows of the words that seem to pronounce the realities that most beckon our flesh and blood in the great wonders of time at the essence of all things. Where do I get this? Half a joint and an incredible sense of restraint when it comes to ever seeing a vagina or a boob. I'm not sure if correlation is causation, but I'm pretty sure most of you are nodding your heads and finally understanding everything all too well. Okay, I should stop. I should stop and breathe. This is nice. I wanted to look more at these trees the other day. There's too many people around. It's amazing to look at. I'm just going to use words because I can't. But there's a large muddy cliff, clay cliff. I'm not sure what it's all made of, but it must be. I think of it like many years, especially near the top. It's like there's sand and dirt, and then you can see the humus kind of dark loam at the top, and it isn't very deep. If I'm getting a profile of the land, it's like these trees seem to be capable, if not intent on very shallow root systems. I'm not sure what I mean by that, but it's interesting that shallow roots is related to the word hell, which also relates to water. So I'm seeing the shallow roots exposed by, a Hell's Deep. Maybe I should call this Hell's Deep. I was thinking how I wanted to go to Hell's Gate in the Lower Mainland, and I may never go there again, near Hope. And it's like, maybe I'll call this Hell's Gate. It is kind of like Hell's Gate. All right, Hell's Gate it is. Hell's Deep, because as a virgin, I don't ever see anything that's ripe and wet and deep. And I think I'm scared of ever seeing anything ripe and wet and deep. If I'm ever looking at a woman's vagina, something has seriously gone wrong. Unless it's at a porn site of some kind. Alert. And sometimes I wonder when I'm going to the bathroom, what people do who live on submarines for months at a time, who feel like having sex with someone. Has anyone ever asked them? Do they have like prostitutes at every port, or what do they do? Maybe they use each other. Those bunks look very cozy. I wonder if gay porn has a lot of nuclear submarines. We're going deep, sir. We're going deep. You have the con. Torpedoes are ready, sir. We can shoot them and then turn around and have them come back to us and then ram them. Just like Hunt for Red October. Do you want to ram them, sir? Alec Baldwin's coming. You might want to ram them ahead of schedule so that, you seem a little more normal. Last time you got a little excited. Whoa. That stone was a little not what I needed. Ramming things. There comes a point when a man wants to ram something. He's got a little bit of a ram in him. But fortunately, or not, women do too. They also like to ram things. Little ramming action. Ram. Imagine if there was a computer program to teach women how to masturbate. It's like, and it has a little glitch, and you like, ram. What's wrong? Break. Oh, there we go. There was nothing wrong. It just went ram for like 15 minutes. Oh yeah, that's the 90-year-old vulture setting. You got to turn it back to 21. There you go. Now it's like ram. Done. They have like little programs for exercise bikes. You get to pick how many hills, how steep they are. Edging factor set to 100. It just goes, stop touching yourself. Stop touching yourself. Stop touching yourself. For like 45 minutes. What kind of people would that produce? Or better yet, why do I think of such things? Because I worry. I think about how much I've studied this, that, and the other, and how completely vulnerable I still am to the world. It's an awful feeling. If I was looking for greater protection, I found it, but it's now 50% magic and 50% domestic logistics. And I think 50% of that is 50% magic and luck. So really 75% of my life now is magic and luck, as far as protecting myself from all of life's so-called real and economic ravages. The idea that I can sell that to other people seems vaguely preposterous. I'm trying to figure out where I want to go. I think I'll go down here. So farther away. I don't want to be stumbled upon by people too easily, and then I can sit down for a bit. It might get a bit cold, but that's okay. For the time being, I'll permit that. Oh, here's a nice stone. Let's try this. Retard. 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 Sounds like an airplane. It's like, stroke. Stroke. Stop touching yourself. Stop touching. Don't even look at it. Don't even think about it. Oprah Winfrey. Oprah Winfrey and your grandma. Oprah Winfrey and... what's your friend's name? Oh, I almost had it. I think her name is Lesbia. Lesbia. Her name translated as like Lesbia. She talks more about her girlfriend than her husband. Okay. In the last 7 days, I had a strange woman who completely questioned my entire reality, essentially my capacity to even take care of myself in terms of my life, while trying to help me. It's sort of like a sociopath will kind of look to undermine you and then to give you something they think you need. Basically like, oh, just a second. Heard a branch snap up there. Something might be laying down. And I'm a good person. I gotta reaffirm that for myself. I'm a really nice person. I'm a good person. I'm a good person. I'm a good person. I'm a good person. Let's make the next few minutes about what a good person I am. All right. Hello, Landon. You are a good person. I can tell that. I thought the first time I met you, there was something good. So good, in fact, that you can do no wrong. You are perfect just the way you are. Oops. That might have been a bit disingenuous. No, I mean, why not? You are perfect. I've got to eat something. Oh. Oh, I saw something. It was very quick. Um, oh, eagle. See the eagle now. 2 eagles. Cranberry, good. Okay. So what that little eat fest did is solve my fucking blood sugar issues. Which over last week I had a few dalliances with getting too low blood sugar. So today's a good day. Whew, just put that food down. I didn't even have a very good breakfast, but I don't like to eat too much when I start the day for some reason. And then it's like I build, and then by the time I get back to the cut, I'll have another nice huge meal and I'll build, right? I'm a builder. It's actually a pretty good spot to sit, to stay out of the corner. You'll notice about me that I like to stay out of the common way. I'm a little ruined, maybe. Maybe it's helpful, more modest to say that. Maybe I'm just fucked. I mean, a lot of poor people just say, oh, I'm fucked. I mean, I've heard people was like, oh, I'm just fucked. Oh, yeah, man, I'm totally fucked. It's an interesting way to talk. That's just really a sack of sugar. And, oh man, sounds like you can't handle your drugs. Intervention might be necessary. I keep expecting to see big animals. It's a very active zone. You have to be stupid enough to see it. Active with humans too. And I'm trying to incorporate that human factor. I've met a few people, like you have to, like females that you have to kind of acknowledge. Okay, I get it. This is kind of your territory. Yeah. I've heard it a couple times. I'm going to stand up for a second. It's sort of, by the river, sound travels differently, so it's hard to tell whether it's behind me, to the left of me, in front of me, above me. I'm just going to keep my eyes out for a second here. I think there's something up here on this cliff. If it's somewhere, that's where I prefer it was. My God, what's that? I just see the spirit of a bear all around me. It looks like a bear frozen coming out of this pine tree. It's red, and then it turns into this brown bear in the shadows. And I have the crow medicine today, but I can't remember the other medicine. It was 24 and 42. What was the 42? Well, I guess we'll see when we get home. And then I had Osila, which is the feminine heritage. I kind of, in a sense, with talking to Giselle, I think there was like the positive side of my personal, emotional, and philosophical turn of mind. Like within discrete proportions. But I feel like, I think in some sense I am really scared to start talking about myself, because essentially, like a somewhat autistic man, I've never had an opportunity to enjoy talking about myself in a way that ever meant something to a female, or a male for that matter, that like there was any longevity to me getting to be someone who could still have some determining positive say about who he was and what he was doing in the world. Any women that I've been around, it's all about what they're doing in the world and what they're going to do, and understandably, their life is about often, finding more of what they need to do and what they're doing and this. And I don't assert myself, I guess, in some respects at all. I'm going to walk for a bit. I'm just going to leave my weed here for a second. I think it's safe here, unless maybe the bears come along, in which case that's, I guess, what the chance you take. Because I do think there is at least a couple bears in the area, and they're enjoying whatever they're enjoying, and they can go wherever they want. So, but I've heard some cracks up here on the cliff, and I think it's probably, I just want to go down to the circle again briefly and get a little jaunting out here. Smoking a lot, but I'm like, even though I'm always wary of marijuana, quite frankly, even though I smoke it every day, because I said, to Giselle, it's not just like the food or the marijuana, it's how it happens to affect you. Imagine if we could all, to change topics a little more grounded perhaps, a little less abstract, a little about me being a passionate, weird person. If we all, fiction is kind of nice, the hypothetical. If everyone, including you, let's say, or everyone including me, could have a really accurate, down-to-earth, sensibly put, and appropriately put at the right time, but very accurate, very well put idea of everything going on with our bodies at any given time in our life. So let's say you woke up one day and you're in a bad mood, and you say to your, as people say, significant other, I gotta go for a walk. And maybe it's understood that you just need to go out for a couple hours and storm around and have that sacred time. But that wouldn't be ideal to me, because although I like doing that every day of my life, I think that would be a little too much to ask of somebody, because that would be like acknowledging that, this whole day is being defined because you're angry. And what if that was every day, or 7 days a week, or 6 days a week? And ended up your partner just got out of bed every day and went for 2 hours walk just so they could stand living with you, for all you knew. That would be scary. So it wouldn't take adequate account of your or their feelings, but it might be useful to you. So I think, oh shit, that doesn't work. Okay, but you'll notice in that example that the person wasn't really reporting everything going on for them. They, at best, needed to go for a walk for 2 hours to find out how they felt or why. In the course of which maybe they found, they need to take a crap. It was a complicated crap because someone at the office or down the street or at this party, touched their balls. Or just the way they just monopolized the conversation has given you diarrhea. Because probably that person of the opposite sex has been sexually abused in their life. And I can't explain it to you, but that's the kind of effect it can have on me. I always feel stomach aches when women have tried to rape me. My stomach starts to ache if they have just even inappropriate interest in me. My stomach gets kind of tongue-tied. This idea of men becoming tongue-tied around women, it's like, I don't want to become tongue-tied around women. I don't want to feel intimidated about being honest. Personal honesty. Yeah. Oh, look. It's a skipping stone that no one else has found. I'm going to skip it and look really profound. I'm going to skip it and look really profound. You can see what I see. Oh, look, there's another one. No, not quite. That one looks like a submarine from The Hunt for Red October. The theme today is the submarine navy. The submarine, the gravy. Okay, perhaps get ready to go. That was so nice. Whale. So I was thinking, as I was sort of dancing and singing out there, that if I look at all the spirits that I sense or see here, we have bear, we have eagle, we have salmon, and I thought, well, all that's missing is whale. So now I'm kind of bringing the whale, and I started dancing and thinking, I guess I'll bring the whale, which is like, like knowledge held by a mammal, you might say. The knowledge of the earth held by mammals. And then you could say of the whale, the knowledge held by mammals about nature, and so the knowledge held by bear about nature, the knowledge held by eagle about nature, the knowledge held by this mud, these stones, and not that you're going to do your greatest talking when you're just in the mud and stones, is that you do your greatest talking standing around them, and that you've stood around them, they will always speak well of you. And the trees and everything around you just will always speak well of you. All of nature heralds the name of thy flesh and blood. And so you don't need a therapist, you just need nature. You need to run through nature like the deer in the water. It all speaks your name. It's not just like, the owl speaks your name because you're going to die, because you suddenly decide to live like tribal people. And you get cancer and your nuts fall off and you learn about how God really loves you. Fuck you. Let nature call you forth, as nature itself has been called forth by you and your birth and the concussions of your hungers. I mean, come on, it's time to fucking collect ourselves in this fucking wonderful world. And in a way, you'll notice that isn't going to lead you to be a delusional psychotic, and it's not going to minimalize the sanctity of your own flesh and blood. And when things are in proportion, hell, things are fucking a good deal better than they usually are. I should start my book that way. Do you think people would buy that? But then if they ask me, you have to think about the honest questions you could be asked, like, what did you study to write this book? And because you really studied nothing, you would be like, you'd say something really caustic like, I studied everything. I studied the scintillating grandeur of the water as it runs through my daughter's fingers. And they'd be like, you don't have a daughter. You're like, I was speaking metaphorically. Okay, so, or you could just be honest and say, I have no qualifications. And you would say, that's boring. And a good publicist is like, come on, man, you have qualifications. You've touched yourself more than any man on earth. My publicist has a really great sense of humor, and she keeps me honest. You're right, Lydia. You're always right. That's why I always have to go to the bathroom, storming off and angry, and touch myself. I know. You like what I'm wearing today? No. What do you shop at the Old Navy? Come on. I haven't thought about your ass, your underwear, or ripping anything out of it for the last 13 years. I don't know why you keep trying. You don't have to be so mean. Being out here, you can answer the question is what it's like to have a lot of space in nature to yourself when you're sort of a lonesome fellow. It's like, well, so far it's not too bad. I see the otter coming out of that root. Maybe wanting to return to the river. That is a huge root. So remember I said I thought the roots were shallow, but and it seemed like a shallow place to have roots, but it's like this root has gone right through the loam, and it's gone well into the sedimentary layers beneath. Even kind of different kinds of sand, really, at that point, as much as they're different kinds of soil, and in my uneducated opinion. So some of those roots are pretty deep. I don't see the tree that attaches to that root. So I'm guessing the one I'm seeing, that tree has already left or been laid down. I don't know. So it doesn't mean I don't see the evidence of it. So a lot of them are washed away. I also suspect some of these will during winter. So that'll be something to watch. There are things to keep an eye for, along with bears and things like that. I hear the crow or the raven. This is a better place to be today here, and I feel like for what I do in the space I sort of take up or want to take up, I think this is a better place than where I was sitting over there. So I'm going to take note of that. You know, a lot of my walking around is, depending on what I'm doing, is about being in the right place. When I take the ferry, I'm going to start packing up. When I take the ferry to the mainland, I go like, this music moment, your lips, it lasts forever, forever to the end of time, forever to the end of time. I'm going to put my hat away because people don't get to appreciate my wonderful, well no, I'll do it because they can see me coming that way. It's always good that people can see you coming. Except when you're coming, of course. And hear the brethren say, "Of course, my Lord, of course, my Lord." In my church, you don't say, "Amen," you say, "Of course, my Lord." I've been chuffing on this ragweed so long, I can't tell the difference between any one of you little fuckers. Of course, my Lord. What happened to Chicory Bob and the Carson Three? They never existed, my Lord, but of course, my Lord. Oh, what about the chicory root I used to stick upside the stovepipe when I was making my blueberry crisp pie like my mama used to make? None of those things are real, sir. Just testing. Oh, okay. Yeah, and there's other trees that have rooted in the side of the cliff, so it's all fertile, even if it's not that dark loam consistency. I mean, what these trees are doing. That means, some of these trees have been growing out of here for, it's got to be 10 to 15 years. No, what? 3 to 7 years, maybe? I'm trying to think what little I know about how different trees grow. It's like, so maybe even 10 years or something. It's like, that's amazing. So if you come here, these are ones to watch. You know, the river's not going to come that high, but it depends. If the river beneath it goes, there's a little sandbank there. And as I look along the cliff, these are the only trees I see in this kind of prominent survey. So these are ones to watch. and there's one above doing fine, but it's kind of half on stilts. It's being supported by various coexistence and formerly existent roots to stay where it is, or they are. And so if you look at everything living along here, talk about like how humans respond to evil, how these trees are responding to the challenges placed upon them. So how everything could, you don't have to be a Sylvan expert to start thinking or imagining what's happened here and why things are the way they are. Like if you came into a certain village of people, if you were training to be good people, you'd have to come someplace or into a family maybe and say, what happened here? You could come into your own family. I came to my family once after my second stint at university, home for Christmas, and it was like, what happened to my family became the rest of my life's work. You know, I had gotten acne one year, and people were like, what happened to your face? Well, I came home at 19, it was like, what happened to my life? Okay, so that's what happened to me, and I had no idea of the proportions or what to call it, and this, that, or the other. So humans have this ability to have like their whole life change and not know how to tell people who maybe even related to what's happening are the last people who want to hear anything at all. So it comes out as depression. And it's an effect of what we're also calling oppression in this case. I gotta go. Well, I gotta do one more stretch. Keep this here. This stone looks like a skull with orange kind of jack-o'-lantern look to it. Oh. Oh shit. Oh, it's in here. To everything when you are down, the keys to everything when you are down. I'll hand you the keys for everything. I won't talk. Well, I think we're... Oh, saw another bear spirit. That is literally the spirit of the bear. Okay, thank you. Thank you so much for appearing in this ineffable way when you could have appeared physically and might still do so. Off we go. Basically walking on the path of the bear. What nature's telling me is that I'm walking the path of the bear right now. So we'll call this the path of the bear. There's actually a trail in the news called Wandering Bear, which introduced the idea of wandering like a bear. And in a sort of probably subconscious, but very respectable way, to take nothing away from the person's accomplishment who has named this trail, has forced or persuaded an association with the bear as you walk around a trail that is in a fairly remote area where bears go. So it kind of works well to learn to walk with the bear. I like that. So there are good things about white people. You just have to think really hard. You have to think really hard. You can quote me on that. There are good things about white people. You just have to think really hard. See, red people like that humor. I read people have told me, like, you have the sense of humor like a red man, which is about as close to being a red man if I get. I'll be happy with that. You know, I'd be happy to have the comedic sense of red man. That'd be great. If I could just have that, and I'd rather have that than any superpower in the world. And I've happened upon that later in life. I'm not sure what it'd be like to introduce to that idea as a child. You know, everything's different when you think about introducing things to children. Like, maybe you start thinking, hey, you're like this devoted liberal or something, and then you have a child, and you're like, I don't want to do anything different than the way what I had. Now, he's sending you to school and church. I hated it. I hated my dad for doing it. But it made me a better person because now I love him because he's dead. You know, and people, they treat their children a certain way to, in some sense, maybe honor the way they grew up. Because they've worked all of their lives to finish growing up successfully and be able to say, okay, that was pretty good. Thank you, mommy and daddy, right? That's what the average white waspy person wants to do. That's their first religion, to be okay with, you know, everything. Well, once they have children, you gotta think those endorphins are popping pretty good, and they're thinking, this is a signal that we've completed our lives as far as growing up. And now whatever we do because everything that was done to us was ultimately something that we could find a lot to be thankful for. That's why we're going to do it to our children. And again, a bit of comedy for you, but a little bit of reality that in studying white people as a white person. You know, and if I want to be smart, I want to be smart to red people. I want red people to think I'm smart, you know. Like if there's a red person that's like, hey, you know, you're not the most stupid white man I ever heard. That's exactly the way I want to be spoken to. You know, you're not the most stupid white man a red man ever heard. Perfect. That could be my Indian name. Not the stupidest white man you ever heard. You see, red people like that humor. They like that. They smile. They smile like the bear because it's true. And it's okay. They're so forgiving. But you never disrespect that. Right? You know, I don't want to compare myself to the red man, but imagine someone had hurt you really badly. I'm not even saying, you know, that red people think that way or anything. So, you know, put a firewall over that. But what I'm trying to say is I can be hurt. And it takes a lot to want to interact with someone or something that has hurt you as bad as anyone could have hurt, or your people. You have to think. Doesn't mean it's always true, but I think you have to think that way as a white person, a little bit. You know? I do. I know that everyone probably is a bit different, but that's the way I think about it. You know, having been around them, been fortunate to be around them from time to time, and I couldn't maintain that relationship. And that was partly my fault, partly theirs. Because you respect everyone has moral agency and so forth. And that's fine. But I ended up getting gaslighted a bit, but I was like, it was okay. Yeah. Scapegoated, basically. And it's all right. I've learned that if something's going to happen around people, and I'm not even going to fill in the blanks on that paragraph because out of respect for red people, and it's just what happened in that situation. But I just learned that, you know, be careful, you know, be careful. You know, I still have a lot to learn. I suppose the fact that they happen to be a meth addict had a little something to do with it too, which is another sort of comedic element. Not as funny, perhaps, but they're doing well with it. I mean, they're a strong person. I feel, in a sense, I have more of a problem with their addiction than they seem to have with it, to be fair. But it's just the one thing that I couldn't expect anyone in that age or orientation or strength to appreciate is that however well they've got with it, I tried to always tell him that like I wasn't completely comfortable with what he was comfortable with. And one of the things I tried to get across to him is, that you would see him for 2 or 3 days and he'd want to kind of hang out with me for 3 days. And at first I really enjoyed it because I could keep up with this 25-year-old bisexual. And I don't know why I said bisexual, except that it seemed to be a part of his life to be honest with some people, and I was one of them, about his sexuality. And that was that. That was the extent of our sexual interaction. Probably one day we were playing in the waves in the low tide, and he was always like, howling wolf free, so I felt more free around him. And I said, I'm having such a good day. I wish you were a girl. I wish you were a chick. I think I said to him, because then my life would be complete. And I'm guessing it came across a little gay, but it was more like it was ironic, because in a sense, no, okay, hold it. It's still gay. If it's ironic, it's still gay. All right, well, it's not ironic. It was literally true. If he had had a vagina and breasts and hadn't been a meth addict, I would have been on my way to heaven. That sounds so creepy. Oh, well, anyway, the sentiment was funny in the moment. You had to be there. I think he knew what I meant. But what I was doing, essentially, and this is what I'm responsible for, is that I was taking a license with him almost because he was bisexual that I would never say to another man. I was respecting his sexuality. I was also maybe expressing a little discomfort with my own, maybe, or his. Discomfort and sex pretty much go hand in hand for someone like me. So, hand in hand. I like that. We have to try that one. Hand in hand. Hey, I've never been down this trail before. How scary is that? For some reason, I've just been subconsciously taking a different trail. It's actually quite good in a way. I like it. It's a little more off-road. Anyway, I'm not gay, I'm not bisexual, and though both of those parts of his life, meth, bisexuality, I'm being really perverse, I'm very critical, but that's how I needed to be, and that's how relationships sort of work their way out, sometimes because you have to put together how you're feeling with why you might be feeling that way. And one of the reasons is that you'd see him for 2 or 3 days, which was built up into a pattern where you wouldn't see him for 16 weeks, 8 to 16 weeks. And then you'd see him when he was kind of in a certain mode. And what he did in between, I heard little bits of, and I didn't really want to hear much more of what he said. So that got a bit much, partly because I cared, and knowing someone and forming any kind of brotherly bond. Really, really like the guy still. I think he's a really great human being. I feel very lucky to be able to. Would never claim that I know him so well that I can judge him, and he'd be the first person to punch me in the head if I tried. Okay, so strong guy too, right? And a Satanist. So I felt really comfortable to be a Satanist around him. So he really gave me a real start to Satanism in many respects. So that was cool. And like a lot of things I take to, I sort of took to making it my own very quickly. I sort of grafted it onto my entire life because it's helpful, And I would say to someone who wanted to get to know me, as much as I have a religious system, I'd probably call it satanic. But I understand that in saying so, I'm touching a chord in what can have all kinds of fretful and concerning connotations to anyone who hears that. My first order of defense would be to say that even I don't really fully know what it is. I'm sure there are some parts of it that someone could find quite dreadful, and other parts of it I think just blisteringly honest. And I find in general, in the middle of that, personal honesty and truthfulness is a big part of what I do as a Satanist. It's world be damned, I'm going to find the truth and say the truth and sound the truth in every fucking way that a man ever could by birth and by no other fucking qualification needed. And we'll see what happens. To me, that's metal. That's satanic metal. That's black metal. That's death metal. That's Satanism. And you can put those sounds into form like any religion puts their sounds into form and into words. Perhaps with very demonic connotations or deep and doom laden, but also powerful and strong in a way that armies of people have had to be strong to defend themselves in war and to battle in inhospitable environments like these northern boreal forests for protection. The kind of people in whose blood it would be to burn down all the churches in Europe. I like that power. Personally, it's my friend. When a church burns, I feel like somewhere out there my friends are celebrating. I know that sounds like I'm a domestic terrorist or something, but I don't care if it's an accident or old wiring. I figure Satan's on our side. I'm not looking for any fatalities. I just, let the Christians escape. What's another 200 Christians? No, nobody deserves to be burned in a building, but I once thought really hard about burning a church down in my imagination. I went to Qualicum and there was a big TV on, and there was all on the news was this church that burned down in New York. It was burning at that moment. I was like, yes, the revolution is coming. So that to me is Satanism as well. I take very little pleasure in the goings-ons of the world. So, yes, when a church burns, that's kind of a holiday in my house. If I had children, I'd be like, children, you get the day off school. I heard a church is burning today. Let's all just enjoy the earth and the gaiety of the truth and the wonderfulness of human beings allowed to live according to their nature, like some horses on television. Hail Satan. There are dogs who appear on television who have better lives than we do, more true to their nature. If that dog lives 8 or 18 years, it lives a better, longer life than most of us. Think about it. So your sense of time, or how long you live, has a lot to do with your reality, has a lot to do with your resonance with your nature. If you want to live a long time, you have to live according to your nature. That's the only way. Okay, now you've got the start. You've got the genesis. Keep that in your mind every fucking day of your life. Because Genesis is the only way out of this. Right? Genesis is everything. You want Genesis like you want peace and air and happiness for your family. Let Genesis reign supreme. This earth resonates with Genesis. Genesis is everything, man. Fuck God. It's all about the Genesis. It's about the perinations. It's about the regenerations. Not the religions. It's about everything that regenerates in your father's and mother's flesh and blood when they rest at night and have a brief few moments to rest in some remaining image of kindness and goodness to the inner and wonderful celestial epic of their growth in this wondrous world when they still had a mother and father they could trust. That's real shit, man. That's real fucking shit. I don't know. Hope that makes sense. I'm glad I'm moving again. You tend to be glad about that after being out in the Canadian wilderness for a while. Moving becomes your friend. Your kinetic samumbanum. And that was just a good reason to use a fancy word. Really wasn't even appropriate, but samumbanum, my friends. Samumbanum for you too. My child's gonna want nummies. It's like, don't let him call them nummies. They are nummies. Your niblets are their nummies. Come on, mummies, I want my nummies. My daughter's first word is like, give me your tits, Mom, now. Daddy said they're mine. I'm a young socialist. And then when she gets them, she's like squeezing them into her brother's face. This is your portion. Open your mouth or you go without. I'm a young socialist. Now, some people have called me a misogynist. I'm just a man who's never seen a woman's breast. I almost don't want to. Can you imagine the hunger, the look on my face when eventually some beautiful, naive young woman exposes her left breast to me? Can you imagine how pathetic that's going to look on my face? You know, how sad, how desperate. But if she misses all of my physiological cues, what a lucky man I'll be. And I'll put that into our wedding vows. And she'll be like, you're the best. What I felt when I first saw your breast and how lucky I was. Howdy. Good day.
Hey there.
Hey. I think that guy might have served in the army. I think he's a Canadian vet. You meet them sometimes. They're in their 30s or mid-20s. And I think they've done a tour or something. I respect their energy. Very self-possessed. Former soldiers. You know, I respect them. It's kind of like they know that I've never been a soldier. You just kind of know. They probably recognize each other. I want to see this helicopter go right over me. I guess they're following these lines. It's cool. I think they have to do a check or something. That's my naive interpretation. Yeah, let's keep going. So he's very self-possessed and didn't need to be polite to be, grounded. That's cool. I like that. He also kind of had the energy of a gangbanger. So it's interesting that you can have two different reads on it, right? But non-offensive, inoffensive. So if somebody's inoffensive, someone can be totally, boss without being offensive. I think that's actually pretty cool. Now, it could be that I'll meet that guy one day and I'll be like, hey, this is how I saw you when I first met you. You'd be like, oh, no way, dude. Like, I was just like working off a bender. And you're kind of disappointed inside and you're like, oh, okay. Shit. I think I need to go. And then you're like, what's that? I think I have to go take a shit. Oh, yeah. Anyway. People have such different lives. I'm more of a spectator by nature. I'm a chronicler. I have Viking blood. But I'm pretty sure I was the guy that sat in the back and wrote poems. They brought home like busty babes from various ports where we never raped and pillaged. As a Viking historian, we rather had little tea parties for the local villages, handed out grains and bread and frolicking stories about our brave and virtuous accomplishments all over the world. But mostly what I wrote about was the beautiful babes they brought back onto the boat and banged way past midnight while I lay under some sackcloth crying for my mommy. They were most bountiful like goddesses. Their epic romps could scarcely find my pen, which is leaking. Volgoroth says that one day he'll tell me how to get over being a chronic masturbator. But until then, he's happy that I have the appointed tasks which the gods have given to me. So no one is allowed to touch me or molest me. I am a poet of great renown. Basically, I'm writing pornography for Vikings in between spates of incredible orgies and fuckfests. with gorgeous and bountiful women. So far, they find it quite amusing. I tell them about Homer, they call me a homo. It all works quite well. No, that's probably not true, but I do have Norse blood. That's where the Satanist comes from. Oh, who doesn't? I've met many men who want to imagine they come from great roots. I think that's natural. A tree wants to have great roots. Do you think any tree lives that does not have great roots? Hey, look, this one's like a lady, and this one's like her man. Seriously, this is like a lady, this particular tree, and this is like a man. Do. Well, I'll see you two again. It looks like another one used to be here. And the roots are still caught up with their roots. I don't know where people go, much less where trees go, when they lay down. And here, you can see other trees. The first floor is made of a lot of trees. There's something about, I think, the knowledge that trees have to offer us. They don't see laying down in as a forbidding way as we might imagine. It's hard to comprehend when you hear the sound of a chainsaw. Nor do I believe the trees are unaffected by that sound, which is quite fearsome in its way. A great disturbance in the ethers, a great industrial power, a great song, in a sense, in its way, but a disturbing one could also say. Imagine, some sensitive West Coaster like me walking these forests for 50 years, and then, Macmillan Blodeau gets the okay, and you start to hear the first chainsaws. Like, what would that feel like? That could hurt a man's heart, wouldn't it? So, what I've learned as a West Coaster is one of the reasons I think I like walking in these parks. Not that they're just easier in many respects. It's because they'll never be cut down again. They're protected areas. They're not part of, the harvesting areas anymore. They've sort of been retired for human enjoyment. After being, logged and relogged several times over the last probably 800 years. So they're resting, really, like us. They're regenerating. They've been given a kind of clemency. So we like that. We relate to that, I think. So you see trees now that are, man's benevolence is leaking here a little bit. There's a sense of environmental stewardship to the various areas, even if it's just because we like to walk here. So we want to stop the erosion. Humans become interested when they enjoy any of the benefits of the area. They get attached. And then we're thankful that men come out here and do industrial feats of magic to stave off the erosion in various areas. I haven't made it to those areas yet, but they do exist. Different regions do different things. Some just like to let it go, see what happens. And so there's another area I can walk home today where you'll see where it's kind of more of a laissez-faire approach to nature's changing snake of a river. So you get to see maybe, if erosion doesn't get to happen here, it may happen down there. Like, as one man said to me, the river kind of just needs to do a few things usually along its course. So once it does one thing here, it'll do something over there. It won't balance out. Well, that's neat. Kind of feels like my body, things moving around in my body. Yeah, definitely have another meal when we get far enough down. Let's get a little away from the river. Got some choices. Okay. I'm tired now. I've been going strong for a while. That's, getting used to sativa, powerful sativa. She seems to know that I favor the higher THC percentage. So that's been cool. In a sense, this girl, Giselle, has been a little bit like my personal trainer. From the time I started talking to her, just why? Hey, cheers very much. Whew, not bad day, hey? Yeah? Thanks. I slowly taught myself, I'm meeting a lot of nice white people today. And, we all know that we don't have to be best friends. We're just all happy to be here, and that's what we share. And if I'm a poor person and they're a rich person, even if that's just in my mind, or whatever that is, we all put that to one side for a few brief seconds, and we become as equals upon the earth. And that is a lovely thing. You might think I'm just gibbering on, but isn't this what the kind of poetry that liberal educators want our children to write in school? Isn't this the kind of thing that settles the accounts of how bigger, earlier generations want to acquit themselves as their beautiful, if not unstained, responsibilities to those that come after for 7 generations? Am I not the liberal dream as it finally comes on its own face and licks its miserable sneer into a barely audible retort to all of the remaining slights upon its delicate flesh and blood and mine? Thank you. I now may have a little nap, poop my pants, and expect you to change it in the morning. Come on. Don't we all need a mother? Don't we all need to go back to that point and I just want to poop my pants, have somebody who loves me so much to just take care of it. And today nature did that, with the moss. It was lovely. I find something anal, pleasantly anal about my daily experience. It's like, mommy wiped my ass for me. It doesn't feel good. What a primal need, right? Every time you use toilet paper, you're like, please, somebody wipe my ass. I'm uncomfortable. And I don't think that's acceptable. I'm going to cry at the top of my lungs. I love that. I love that part of our brain. Make no mistake. That is the wolf. That's the teacher. That's the master right there. Wipe my ass, you wonderful people. I would never know what it means not to trust you. Please, you are my life, my spirit. My ass is dirty. It's a wonderful, honest need. It's the most pure supplication we ever make. I might have to start wearing diapers again. This will be my explanation on a TED Talk. Why I wear diapers. And people will be like, they'll sit enthralled like, I'm never going to do this, but this guy has balls. Women will be like, I would never fuck him, but I admire his integrity. Or at this point, maybe even her integrity. Because I don't think this guy has any more testicles. And those of you who are wondering if I have my testicles, yes, they are safely kept in my mother's desk drawer until I'm worthy of them again, because I've been a bad boy. That's a related talk called How My Mother Castrated Me, but I'm okay. Also a popular song on YouTube, in my own mind. I call it Delusional YouTube. Or DoTube. It's also a French version of YouTube called S'il vous plaît. Not to be confused with Bluetooth, which is an excellent way for our devices to let each other know the crazy people that they work for, just like the ancient servant class. Oh, I don't know. I love to imagine connections where dark people listen in on our inner thoughts. Do you need more support in your bra? Well, that guy who just walked by would probably appreciate it according to the level that his eyes dilated and looked directly at your nipples, which, by the way, you have pleasantly exposed beneath the guise of modern feminist modesty. Don't worry, you don't have to feel guilty. It's their fault. Let's send them a little swiggle-niggle, which will make that bus run them over. But not before his testicles are saved by medicine and sent to the recipient of the following email, which you'll find in your inbox presently, which entitles you to one free set of, wait, scream, bus, brakes, impact, testicles, freshly groomed. You're welcome. By the way, tell all your friends about this app. So men, in the future, control where your eyes go. I always look down, preferably, and to the left. I'm not sure what that means in terms of body language, but I think it's safe. Some people go down and to the right. It's also safe, but a little risky. It makes it look like you're thinking. You could be imagining them naked. When you're down and to the left, you're in a totally submissive mode, saying, please, oh wonderful female with a vagina, pristine as snow, please tell me what I should think and how I should feel in exactly the right way. Help me to be a good male socialist. That sounds preposterous, but still, I think a useful exercise in, what would you call that? Self-righteousness? Religious indignation? Self-righteous religious indignation about various lapses in my preferred experience of the opposite sex, which I consider the golden mean that runs through, like a vein of fat, through the entire steak sauce of my life. It's interesting, you know. Oh, stop for a second. I'm all covered up in my cap. There's a lot of tall trees here. Some burned issues here. So fire. It's got moss on it. Like a nice pretty face. Smiles. Any texture in nature can make a face almost, it seems. And I've had a lot of smiling ones lately. It's nice that they're not all demons. Don't let the demons get. No, I mean, like, face. If you see faces in nature, some people do. You can see stoic faces. It could be angry. They could be just expressionless. Sometimes we see that expressionless face in nature as angry, but it could be just expressionless. You know, which can be grounding. Just like a stern male face can be very grounding. It's like nature's way of sharing strength with you. If you see a big, you know, beautiful sort of like Viking king, a Viking maybe, or something, just sitting on his throne and at the base of some ancient tree. That can't be a bad thing. I see lots of little things in nature I don't talk about. Faces of frogs, animals, spirits. Things that just occur like impressions on my mind when I let my mind, like a pool of water, take such impressions. That's called a level of sensitivity. Also with THC. So you can, you know, if you're a creative person, or you like to write poetry, or you like to read fine language, you probably already have a pretty fine repertoire of things you like about being outside. And if you take it really simple to itemize your thoughts on that, if you haven't already organized them, like being able to say like, hey, I like this season, or this is my favorite season. That must encompass a lot of interaction with nature, of the most pleasant nature, right? I mean, it's like everything, anything, everything, the very scintilla of something happening in a magnificent way all over your land, right? That takes poetry. Did you know that? That's poetry. To have a favorite time of year, that's poetry. To have the time of year when you were born, that's poetry. The time I said to my mom, I was born the same time of year you were conceived. There's an overlap. That's pretty powerful. In the medicine wheel, the times of year, as discreet and wonderful as they are, all have something to say about who we are. That even though you could never exhaust who we are because of any one thing about nature, it doesn't cover up what we are. It doesn't prohibit us from what we are in what it says about who we are. It's part of a sacred language. And wisdom should encompass who you are without saying, hey, I can exhaust everything that you are. Like, everything you are isn't decided by the decisions and the fears and the difficulties that you have to face every day. And what an insult that anyone would mean to say that they know better than you how you should feel or live, or what is wise or what is not, or what is good and what is evil to you, and prospectively to anyone like you, which could be everybody. And you hold the power to all of our lives as much as any of us do, because you have a voice in the matter. I am in this way the voice of the common man. I'm also with Peter and Zebedee and Obadiah and the Ojibwe, because I like all those words. And I wish those people would be with me for a while, but I think I like the Ojibwe the best. And I'd scatter all the Zebediahs. They've all got weird beards and they mutter things to themselves. They're always drinking soup. That Abednego fella, it's like I could never get used to calling someone Abednego. It sounds like some sort of whorish B&B. A hair tie. It would be female in nature. Perhaps something she used to have up her vagina to soak up her lust for her neighbor who recently lost his wife. And all of a sudden her libido is kicked in. Okay, let's keep going. Libido, side to side with a grievous change in someone's life. Perhaps a little too comical for one's liking. We speak of such things in such an abstract way. I wish death were just abstract. I wish it were. When I read the words of William Butler Yeats that man has created death, and with that sort of Hindu resonance that these things always seem to have. No one talks about death like the Hindus, except maybe the Egyptian Book of the Dead, or the Buddhists, who can actually be a very morbid philosophy. It's like, some of Buddhism is like, look, picture the one you love the most as though they were a dead, rotting body, and that will get rid of the part of your mind that fucks you up. That's pretty fucking weird, dude. How come no one ever just talks about Buddhism and says, hey, that's fucking weird? Are we not allowed to think it's fucking weird? We're supposed to just think it's this wonderful little, ergonomic way of allowing yourself to be free of the unnecessary burdens of thinking for yourself. In fact, even having a sense of self at all. Let go my ego. Jesus Christ, man. Have you figured it out yet? Religions are controlled by the same people who control Kellogg's and Nabisco. And that's remarkable. I'm not sitting here with some paper tiger sword hoping that these tigers will go away because I can put them into dark enough sounding terms that comprehend a world that I no longer need to work for because I hate getting a job. But your criticism is to be commended. You must have an incredible IQ. Thank you. And I will send you one of my free t-shirts. It's also imaginary. Okay, that was bad. But it was really just to myself, so it was okay. I think I went on several divergent strains there, and I didn't really finish the first main concept, which I've not forgotten, which also should be included in your judgment of me as a person and my capacity to fertilize someone. Your craven specialists. Craven specialists. What? What are you talking about? Craven specialists. I don't know, I'm trying to see what that sounded like. To be craven is to be, well, compulsive in an unprincipled way, or to an unprincipled extent. I just make these things up. I mean, fuck. I don't have time to look at a dictionary. Dictionary schmictionary. Thesaurus schmesaurus. What if dictionaries and thesauruses got together and merged? What if they had a love child? Would it be something like this? Speaking at a symposium of abstract literature, this is a poem that gives you an idea of what would happen if a book of the meanings of things blended with the book of things that just bore an uncanny resemblance to those other things, of almost an identical nature, but rearranged in a peculiar way that made it worth noting something that in many respects was a completely useless expense of one's precious time, little of which you will ever get back. And believe me, wasting time is my middle name. And I call this poem Wasted Time. Now, the thesaurus has now become like a dictionary. So the definition of thesaurus would be a book of the meanings of terms that tries to catch up with a book of just other words for the same thing. Synonyms with definitions. It's kind of like two infinite lines. Which one gets to infinity first? And so I've called it the Book of Infinity. And it goes like this. Curious animals, whom some call angels, have found among their sounds, instinct with many bounds of this very land, to become clothed with feather and fur, and that as though a hairless coat worn by those who would be king, received as such to rule the earth with gladness and truth. I don't know, it's just the humor proceeding from the ridiculous to the prosaic, even scriptural measures to which I like to turn my mind. I enjoy this leaf. I enjoy my health today. My health is always like combating things and trying to feel like safe enough to walk outside by myself without being sexually molested by someone. Today it's like, I just feel like a special magic is going with me. I'm going to take it for all it's worth. This might be a good time to think about how I can preserve this level of happiness. It all started the day that this strange woman asked me what I wanted, and I said to be happy and for my family to be happy, and to be relieved of grief and sadness in both. It's like, because that is really what I want. I mean, I think every day about what I want. And this being heard this. I didn't think it really meant that much to them, but I think someone did hear it. I think nature heard it. Because my emotional body was activated by whatever this person was, right? So nature heard it, and it was just like, something happened. A potential was met. And I think I can be happier now for a while. And I think the one rule for the happiness for me right now is respect it. Don't take it for granted, and enjoy it at the same time. Every day when I come out here, I'm packing in essentially the satisfaction of everything that any other human being might want to do in a day, including having sex or traveling or making money or partying or doing some new thing with some new incredible people. I'm basically just walking by myself all day. So really that's all it's ever going to be. No matter who I meet, no matter who I talk to, that's probably all it's ever going to be. So it has that truth. It's grounded in its utter misery, and yet it's vague and grand richness, right? How could one's kingship and richness be bound to being anything more, or be condemned to anything less than a simple, modest, gut-wrenching human existence that tries its mind upon some of the deepest agonies that can be suffered by the human race, and supplemented by just about everyone but me. And probably everyone else who thinks that way, who feels depressed or oppressed, or has ever been raped or touched or molested. It doesn't go away when you're happy. You haven't signed off on your responsibilities to the world. You're getting a respite from a labor that maybe no one will ever understand except you. And making the world understand might just be a worthy occupation for any one man. Good, we've had a lot of uninterrupted trail now. It's been good. I think we're getting into maybe 2 o'clock in the afternoon. It's amazing how time can fly out here. I feel it in my body as much as the sun moving in the sky. It's like, whew. My mom even said she slept last night without any sleeping pills, without any Tylenol. She had the best sleep of her life, and it's like, oh, good. Because, her sister, Aunt Vi, called, and that's a negative person, unfortunately. It doesn't matter how hard she tries to be anything else. It's just, unfortunately, she basically told me who she is, it's like, and they have this way, and it just spills out of them, and they probably don't mean it. It's just, I'm pretty sure, it's one of these women that, I'm pretty sure they've been sexually molested, but at the same time, hi, how you doing? Hi. She's become militant in her way of living, and I'm pretty sure has exposed her children to some considerable indignity, and the severity of her attempts to be a person, which seems to be like a militant quest to be a person that everybody likes. And in fact, nobody does. And what kind of provenance that can have, and she seemed nicer when I was younger, and she's not openly cruel. She's just obsessive compulsive with the severe and overfamiliar way she has of talking to me. The brief instant that I've even been around her over the last 20 years have made me feel as though in every sense that I can feel this from a human being. This is not someone whom you can trust ever. And there's no point in even trying to develop a trust. It's already too baleful a thing to contemplate. And you just don't want to have to be afraid of this person. I, quite frankly, wouldn't want her to outlive my mother in many respects. I think it'd be nice for my mom to live to be free of her and her older brother, who are, I think, maybe been holding a lot of secrets all of their lives, and I don't want my mom to in any way have anything to do with that anymore. I think she's worked hard. I don't think either of these people have ever really been her friend, much less her brother or sister. I don't wish to disrespect them too much, more than necessary, but that's my feeling on the subject. He raped her, and she helped cover it up, and I think he raped her as well. And I think she married a guy that probably didn't need to have sex with a woman like her, preferred to have different kinds of relationships with his female daughters, one of whom is married to a man twice his age. The other has clearly never been touched by a man and was going gray and bald by the time she was 21. She's a pleasantly but completely emotionally detached female who seems to worship her father, but grow vaguely more enthusiastic for life the more strokes he seems to have. So keeping up certain relationships, kind of like the landmark method of like finding some way to stay connected to your parents as opposed to succumbing to some great desire to get away from them. At least that's how it's been explained to me by someone in it and someone outside of it. It's fascinating. Basically a cult that gets a lot of people who need a little preparatory action preface to, living their lives, as opposed to maybe becoming homeless or a drug addict. I don't know, like, it could be a good thing. I don't know. It's the only thing I've heard to address the incredible issues that can surface between the ages of 9 and 29, by the looks of it. But I think it's just unfortunate that these things have to be sort of culty. I don't know much more about it. I knew someone who was in it for a while, and there's just something, just a feeling that's just like, yeah, I don't know what that is. Personality honesty can include like people I've known that I didn't know well, but like if I looked at my behavior instead of just assuming that people were healthier than me, which is a lot of what I've usually done, look at my responses to their behavior and ask myself, in all the time this person knew you, did you ever feel comfortable really talking to them and letting your hair down? No. Okay, but what does that tell you? Right? Obviously they're not the best people you ever met, and they're not really your friends. Doesn't mean they're bad people, right? But at least that is true, right? And it's like, yeah, I guess I've met some sort of more upper middle class people, and they've been very nice, and I've enjoyed knowing them in some respects, but they really, at the same time, weren't my kind of people. And maybe that's just the way things are. He sees you when you're sleeping. He knows when you're awake. So try not to be good for goodness sake or something. Try not to be too bad for goodness sake. I don't know. What a weird mythology. What a great time of year to tell your children to be good when you're ready to reward them with lots of free shit. I mean, that's, it's not even good dog training. So I'm walking with the bear, apparently. Walking with the bear. Walking with the bear. Hi-ho, the Mary, walking with the bear. The bear walks with me. The bear walks with me. Hi-ho, the Mario. The bear. Hey, who's this Mario guy? I think it's Mary O. No, it's Mary's orgasm. Before she had Jesus. Okay. Getting a little esoteric here, aren't we? No, this is come in your face fantastic. Mary had to have an orgasm. Now, who is responsible for that orgasm? It's got to be a little bit of Jesus. You got to think, she was the one woman who could say Jesus Christ when she came. Like, oh God, Jesus Christ, right? That's probably how she knew his name. That's how she knew his name. She knew what to call him. I think I'm funny. What do you think? Let me know now by touching your dink. Wait, that sounds gay. Forget I said that. Strike it from the record like they do on TV. Strike it from the record. I wish I could strike some things from the record. Oh, like that time I masturbated outside that veterinary clinic. Because it was a rather nice, Dalmatian. It made me think of fire trucks, and then I thought of firemen, and then I thought of firemen's calendars, and then I thought of the women masturbating to them, and then it's like, I was gone. I'm like, I've got the hose you need, baby. I can quench that fire. You're kind of wondering what happened there. What if I'm a good person and you're a good person too? What if I've had some troubles and you can make you feel better than me? Just like on TV, don't you feel better than me? My life's been so sad, so pitiful and dreary. I hope as you can hear me, you'll feel a little more cheery. My life has been very dark and sad indeed. That's why I'm talking to you and you're talking to me. You're talking to me. Oh, I do say, I do declare, you're talking to me. Oh, somebody is talking to me. I'm talking to me. So we were talking about animals and angels. Spirits of animals and angels, I declare. I don't want you to think I'm mad, but I see them everywhere. That's not true. Whew. But earlier today, the hypothesis was that everyone is alive today because their family and their body and their mind have staved off some kind of evil and or survival imperative of various kinds. I do declare that could make the hair stand up on the back of your neck. It could make you want to shave your pussy like a shit weevil. Sorry. That was totally uncalled for. I just wanted to say pussy. Pussy, 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 pussy. I saw your pussy between your legs. Hey now, Mary comes. So when Mary comes, Jesus comes. So the second coming would necessitate that you find a new Mary. You know, who can have the Mary O. You know, and probably you need to. She probably has a call. You need to go up to women and be like, "Okay, hi ho the Mary O, hi ho the Mary O, hi ho the Mary O." Just ask women, strange women, hi ho the Mary O, and find the Mary who can have the big O, and there can be a second coming, and they'll say Jesus Christ. And that will be his name. To this day, women always go, oh God, because of Mary's first incredible orgasm. Now, who is responsible for that orgasm? Jesus Christ, of course, being one of them. God, perhaps, likes to take a little credit when it's appropriate, but not if it's not appropriate, depending if you're Episcopalian or Protestant. All right. This is important stuff here. This is Moses coming down from the mountain kind of shit. I don't have any tablets, but I am walking around a lot of stones, and I think that is pretty adequate for the new dispensation. All right. Pretty adequate. What a nice name for a stripper. Hey, this is pretty adequate. Oh, well, you're more than adequate. Oh, no, that's my sister. For an extra $300, you can have pretty adequate and more than adequate. And then when you're done, you'll be like, I see how you got your names. At first I thought, wow, that's as good as it gets. And then it was like, whoa, it's even better. I don't actually think that sexual arousal around a female, which I've never really had the chance to enjoy, I don't know. Masturbation has been such an important part of my dating life. Pretty much my only one. So, you know, I'd have to retire my hand. I'd have to have a special ceremony. I would cry. You've done well. Many years of service, more than most. I'm now going to touch another. Don't be startled. What's that? That's a nipple. Oh, see? You like it. Yes, but it's not the same. And then my hand will look and stare at me, and I'll feel bad. But they'll accept me and forgive me because they know that I am mortal. And then they'll tell me they told me so when everything all cracks up. And then I'll take them back and they'll forgive me. And we'll start our relationship all over again. And we'll go through that a few times. And we'll get more mature over the years. Pretty soon we'll stop sleeping together. I'll start wearing gloves when I sleep. I'll take away all the real estate calendars. Where every month is a good month. Sometimes I get a signal here. I'm going to sit down and take a break. I'm going to sit over here. I'm just out of the way. First things first.